Hello, BookTube. Who's up for a few more Hedgehog book recommendations? Of course, that's a rhetorical question, because the one thing you've made clear to me in the last 10 days, 2 months, is that you are. You like being bombarded by random book recommendations. I've had emails from people saying I'm up to 30 books now that I have gleaned from. That sometimes you'll do a Hedgehog book recommendation. I won't want any. Then the next one I'll want 8 out of the 10. And this was named after Christopher Russell, who Joe Spivey dubbed the cartoon hedgehog of our little corner of BookTube. Christopher Russell has been a guest here at Hyde Cottage a couple of times. Joe Spivey has never been here, but Christopher Russell has. And he did a video on his channel just randomly recommending books, and I was off to the races because I love to do that. So we're going to do a few more Hedgehog book recommendations and see where they take us. Some of these will be familiar to you. Some of these I've talked about on my channel before, some of them extensively. Others probably I have never mentioned at all, but the key is that they're mixed up in a new way, and also there are new people here who aren't about to go looking at 10,000 videos. So this will be the first time. So we'll start with Edmund Morris. This is Dutch. This is his authorized biography of Ronald Reagan. Authorized by Reagan's family, by his literary estate, and by his administration, so that Morris could travel around with him. Sit in on cabinet meetings and office meetings and whatnot. Talk to him at great length. And when all of those bodies give you their go-ahead for an authorized biography and pay you for it, they kind of know what they're expecting. They're expecting something that's sand down and predictable and largely an encomium. And Morris didn't write that. He wrote a weird book. You can see it right there in the title, a memoir of Ronald Reagan. It's not the authorized biography. It's weird. It's strange. It's beautiful. Morris is known for his 3 books on Theodore Roosevelt, but I think this is the best thing he ever wrote. And certainly the best authorized presidential biography ever imaginable. It's just not imaginable you could do a better job than this. I said at the time when this first came out, and it was kicking up such a storm of people saying, well, what are you're fictionalizing here? You're making an alternate Reagan here? What is this? What is this? I said at the time, and I still maintain, that any president should be honored to have this laid at their feet. It is the story of Ronald Reagan, and it is wonderfully written as that. It's just odd. It takes all sorts of narrative fancies. So it marks itself out fairly early on. I'd say you only have to get 150 pages in before you realize that you are reading a faithful biography of Ronald Reagan and a fairly canny insight into his administration. But it's not like anything. You don't have to be far in before you realize there are other things going on here that Morris is just feeling like doing. Morris went into this book thinking, I am going to differentiate between the Ronald Reagan of mythos and the real Ronald Reagan. And not long into his commission, he realized that not only is that not possible, but maybe there is no real Ronald Reagan, which is a wild, trippy thing to think. And I think he does that justice. This is a book to read. Even if you're not a Reagan fan, it's a book to read. Then we have something by Bonnie Tsui. I think I've praised this book before. This is Why We Swim. And that's simply what it is. It's a book about the undying human love of swimming. In the wild, in inclement weather, to relieve stress, for therapy, or just as a normal part of the day. And this author does a wonderful job of describing that. All those different environments, but also what it does for us. What happens to you when you are swimming that doesn't happen with any other kind of exercise. I totally agree with that. There was a long period in my life where I went swimming every day, and I definitely felt that. Definitely. Not only is it the best exercise that you can get, because you've got, before you even start moving in the water, you have the pressure of the water on your body, all around your body. But it's also the one that I think is most likely to put you into a Zen state the fastest. You wouldn't think so. If you'd never swum before, you wouldn't think so. You'd look at what swimmers do, and you think, oh, you've got that flip so that you don't run into the other end of the pool. You've got this flip, push off, flip, push off, flip, push off. You think, how Zen a state can you be in if you have to do that? But you do. You do. It's uncanny. And this is, I think, the only book I've ever read that comes close to fully capturing that. There was another piece of literature that did. A Sports Illustrated piece. I don't remember the author. It was about Michael Phelps. And it did a really good job of that as well. The author took a long digression on the magic of swimming. But this is the whole book of that. So if you swim as part of your day, I would love it if I could do that. I would just love it. I'm pretty sure that that would be allowed. And I would love that. But I honestly don't think there's a recreational pool for the general public anywhere near me. Anyway, if you swim, you've got to read this book if you haven't already. Then we have something by Doreen Cronin with pictures by Betsy Lewin. This is a classic. I've talked about it before. This is Click, Clack, Moo. And this is a children's book, but boy, oh boy, are you going to love it. I don't care what your age is. About poor Farmer Brown, whose cows learned to type. So whenever he's doing chores and he's going by the barn, he's hearing that sound. The thing we're talking about here, for those of you born in the 21st century, is an old-style manual typewriter. Old-style manual typewriters made a clicky-clacky sound. They could be loud. I know there are throwback gaming keyboards that you can get that are specifically designed to be loud and clicky-clacky because everything's retro. But once upon a time, everybody had a typewriter, and that's what it sounded like. There was no way to do it quietly. So Farmer Brown goes by the barn and hears that his cows are typing. And that's annoying enough, but the cows start to address their letters to him. And start to talk about maybe their conditions. This could easily be read as a stirring document in the Marxist dialectic. It's also really enjoyable. So just don't let it make you a hipster who's going to haul out your manual typewriter. Manual typewriters have been superseded. There is no point in them anymore. None. I know that flies in the face of all the dude bros who worship me, but it is still true. It is a dead end of technology. The whole point of writing anything is to share it, and you can't share what you make on a typewriter. You have to. It just sits there. So don't let the book haul out the manual typewriter. I have one here. I could easily do that myself for pretentious points, but I don't. Anyway. Then we have part of the Mammoth book series. I don't think Mammoth books are made anymore, but for about 10 years, hundreds of them were made. They were anthology volumes by Carolyn Graff, I think. Paperback anthology volumes that were often wonderful. Just wonderful. A library, a full, I don't know if anybody who has the complete library of Mammoth books. I once had, probably 60 of them. All at once. Because every one that came out I just loved. But a full library of those would be great reading. This is the Mammoth book of The Mummy. Of a type of horror story that really needs a renaissance because it just hasn't happened yet. The closest we got was The Mummy by Anne Rice. And this is about scary, undead monsters who come alive and aren't quite zombies. Not quite zombies. We don't ever, in a lot of the classic, like, Peter Cushing mummy movies, or in a lot of the classic mummy tales, we're never really sure what the mummy wants. It's stalking you, but we're never really sure what it wants. Zombies want to bite you. Do mummies want to do that? Or do they just want to maybe touch you and have you be dead? Have you be one of them? Wrap you up in bandages and whatnot. And these took off. Arthur Conan Doyle and Bram Stoker were among the first to write early mummy stories. These took off with the birth of Egyptomania 100 years ago, where suddenly the ancient Egyptian dead were being discovered in tombs in the Valley of Kings and elsewhere, and they were wrapped from head to toe. So a lot of people had the same thought, which wouldn't it be creepy if one of these things came alive? What would it, if it was stalking people, what would it do? And this is terrific. I wish I still had a physical copy of this. The mummy stories in here, of course, this is an anthology, so any anthology is going to be uneven, and this one is. But there are plenty of great things in here. Do we mention? Cage Baker, Cale Gallagher, Karen Joy Fowler, Joe Lansdale, Angela Slatter. Those are more modern writers, but there are older writers in here as well. It's a good balance. It's a good anthology if you're interested in a mummy tale. Then we have Michael Gross. This was a book that I was out of reviewing for 25 years, and during that time, I would still get some books from publishers, and this one I got an advance copy from the publisher, and I thought, even if I were reviewing books, there's no way I'd write about this. There's no way that I'm going to be interested in this. But Michael Gross made it interesting. It is a fascinating book. It's called 740 Park. And it is the story of the building at 740 Park Avenue. A big, heavy apartment building, and the apartments in it are mind-boggling. I've actually been in one of the apartments in 740 Park, and they are mind-boggling in their luxury. Apartments with 8 rooms, 10 rooms, multiple floors, marble floors, just incredible. Just the one that I was in. First of all, you had no idea that you were in a busy, bustling city. You were completely walled off from it. But it had, the one that I was in had a lavish garden. And it was a patio. It was a lavish garden, but it wasn't just plants and trays. There were also trees. You felt like you were in the middle of a wilderness. It was incredible. And I can just imagine, the one I was in was not the most luxurious one, so I can just imagine what the penthouse at 740 Park is like. And this book helps you to imagine that. It takes you inside. Gross got permission from a lot of people. A lot of the people in 740 Park and a lot of other buildings on Park Avenue do not want you to write a piece about their home. They don't want anybody to know what their home is like. Some of the people in some of those buildings on Park Avenue and elsewhere in New York have been outside in the outside world in 40 years. They have no need to do it. They have not been outside in all that time. A lot of people, a surprising number of people talk to this author. So believe it or not, even though this is a book about an address most of you will never set foot inside, it still is really interesting. Then we have Donald Morris. This is his classic book, The Washing of the Spears, about the Zulu nation and about the Zulu wars that were fought during the height of British imperialism. At least 2 movies were made out of this. And I prefer the one that is lesser known, the one that has my favorite actors in it. But this is an amazing story. It is, in some ways, the quintessential story of British colonialism, where they are fighting against a Stone Age people. Basically, they're using 19th century weaponry against the Stone Age people. So the Stone Age peoples usually fail pretty quickly. The Zulu nation did not, because it was enormously numerous. And there are, how this story, if you know the story at all, you know how this is going to end. You know the famous signature battles at the end of the story. But Morris does a great job of fleshing out all the rest of it. And the story is predictably full of great portraits of the personalities on the British side. But the strength of this book is that there are so many personalities on the Zulu side. How Morris researched that, I have no idea. But this is amazing. It is a history book to keep and reread. Then we have something, this is by Fritz Otto Busch. Translated into English, I have no idea who translated this. It's an older book. I was only able to find a battered copy online, but it's a classic. Of its kind. It's a classic. And this is called The Drama of the Scharnhorst. The Scharnhorst, which was part of the Kriegsmarine. This isn't the German language so beautiful? It's so euphonious. Eat your heart out, Italian. No, the German language is a nightmare. It's the ugliest language of them all, except for Russian. It doesn't matter. Well, this is the story of a gigantically powerful British warship that, of course, was destroyed in 1943. It met its fate in 1943. No single ship defeated it. And it, like its famous counterpart earlier in the War of the Bismarck, went down with all its flags flying. It did not surrender, did not ask for quarter. It was just battered into pieces. And this is a fascinating book because the author knew all about life on board the Scharnhorst. It's a memoir. It's not there. There have been histories written about the Scharnhorst and her famous sister ship, or I guess the Germans would say his famous sister ship. There've been books written, actual histories written about this. But how amazing to get this from the viewpoint of someone who knew what the decks were like, who knew what the bathrooms were like, who knew what life on board the ship was like. The Drama of the Scharnhorst was a minor hit when it was translated into English, and that's as it should be. I would love to find a hardcover of this. The hardcover with this dust jacket, God only knows what you would pay for this in the secondhand market online. I'm not going to do that, but God only knows. Sooner or later, a copy of this very thing. I think this was reprinted in a paperback Military History Classics line, but I don't want that. I want this. And sooner or later, I will find a copy of this and read it again. Because Bush is a pretty good narrator. He's pretty entertaining to read. Okay, then we have a comic book, a small graphic novel, to the best of my knowledge, never reprinted. This is by, you're going to tell me on the cover, right? Uh, well, I don't see it on the cover. It's by Oswald Patton, who's a notable pop culture geek. He plays a Vulcan in the latest episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and this is his book JLA, which stands for Justice League of America. Welcome to the Working Week. I've recommended this book before many times as well. It's the story of an enterprising, independent kid journalist who's accidentally left behind in a school trip on board the Justice League satellite headquarters. And the Justice League does not know he's there. So he's wandering around seeing all of these heroes when they don't know they're being observed. Hence the picture there. We have Superman caught eating and Batman is noticing the kid there. This is classic Justice League, and it's Patton Oswalt's way of giving us an outsider's view of what the Justice League would be like. And it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It's Patrick Eason artwork, and some of that is amazing. And of course, it's a day in the working week, but there is a gigantic mega bad guy that shows up, and the kid gets to observe how the League fights that thing. And it's incredibly good. It's just incredibly good. We get such wonderful portraits of the major Justice Leaguers, such wonderful descriptions of them that they will stick in your mind forever. Whether or not you agree with them, they'll stick in your mind forever. Like at one point, the kid it sneaks up on the Martian Manhunter, the green guy in the background there, a Justice Leaguer that ordinary people don't know anything about the Justice League. They'll know about Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and the Flash, but they won't know about the Martian Manhunter. And he is still a fan favorite, and the kid sneaks up on him and sees him meditating, floating in the air and meditating, and says that what does he say? That if Superman is the Elvis of superheroes, this guy's the Dylan. It's just incredible. And all the scenes are like that. This is just an amazing Justice League story. I wish I had it in a more durable format. My little paperback that I bought is falling apart because I go back to this so many times. The Justice League eventually does defeat the gigantic dimension-straddling bad guy. But the bad guy first, when he's defeated, and of course the person who gets the coup de grace on the bad guy is Batman, who has no superpowers. When he's defeated and all ragged and ready to call it a day, the supervillain has marveled. We have a living Kryptonian. We have an Amazon warrior carved out of clay. We have whatever Plastic Man is. This is a priceless opportunity to study these things. These things have never been gathered in one place before. And when he's defeated and all done, he sort of haltingly says, was in a period of time in the Justice League continuity when Aquaman was supposedly dead. So he's not in this book. And the villain sneeringly says that I only wish that I got to meet it's a pity your Sea King isn't here, because he would have been fascinating as well to study as an example. And the kid, who at this time has revealed himself to the Justice League, gets their approval because he yells at the villain, "You're lucky our Sea King isn't here," and they're all happy about that because they miss Arthur Curry. This is a little trifle, but boy, oh boy, if you are a comic book fan and you have not read this, you really owe it to yourself to read it. It's amazing. Then we have a collection of little books. This is the Complete Little World of Don Camillo by Giovanni Guareschi. This will have the Don Camillo books are little. There are, I think, 5 or 6 of them. So you could put them in one book. I once had a hardcover collection of all of them. And I've never seen this cover before. I just grabbed it off the internet. This is another one. I wish I had something like that. And these little books concern a little village in the Italian mountains, between the mountain and the sea, in the Po River Valley. And this little village is ruled over by 2 men. 2 men who are a lot more alike than they would like to admit. 2 enormous men with shovel blades for hands. One is Don Camillo, the priest of the town, who hears everyone's confession, baptizes everyone, puts everyone into their coffins when their life is over, and it receives the old school, small town Italian Catholic veneration that the town's priest always gets. And the other one is the mayor, Peponi, who is pretty fierce. He's a pretty fierce, bushy-bearded communist. And he and Don Camillo are always butting heads. They are always fighting in a brawl in this little town. You do not want to be opposed to Don Camillo, because if he forgets that he's supposed to be a man of peace, he's going to pound you into the ground like a tent peg. And the same thing is true with Peppone. They're the only equals of each other, and they're always at odds with each other. And as spice for the vying that they always do, there is one other character in these books, and that is Jesus. There's a big statue of crucified Jesus over the altar in Don Camillo's church, and Jesus often talks to Don Camillo. And it's not a voice in Don Camillo's head, because Don Camillo is just as egotistical as Peppone. This is Jesus himself, who often upbraids Don Camillo. You could have been nicer then, or I don't think you're going to do that. Well, you say you're going to pound heads, but I'm not going to tell you to do that. I don't think you will. You'll remember my example, and you won't do that. And amazingly, these books paint a world. It is alien to most readers, but it is incredible. It's incredibly inviting. I've mentioned this before, there are a handful of books like this, right? Books that create a world that you just want to live in. You just want to stay there. The Map and Lucia books by Benson is another example. The most famous example probably is the Jeeves and Wooster books. This is another one of those. Oh, just amazing. And then we can finish up with yet another one of those worlds. This is by H.E. Bates, and I only found this dumb cover. This is the complete Uncle Silas stories. A little boy recounting stories about his, I think, great uncle, Silas, who is an old-style, work-shirking, skirt-chasing rogue from a previous century. He's a scamp. He's not good for the money, but he's lovable. And these stories are wonderful. I really need to reread them. I really do need to find a copy, either a print copy or, Uncle Silas as an ebook, and reread a lot or all of these stories, because they are amazingly touching. They're funny. Uncle Silas is always trying to out-scam someone or other, and usually he succeeds. He's usually the victor. But he is also vulnerable in ways that you have to be a little older, I think, to appreciate. You're going to get the ribald humor of these stories right away. But if you're older, you're going to start to see other elements that Bates puts in here that are not stressed. He doesn't hit you over the head with them, but they're wonderful. So I strongly, strongly recommend, if you ever see an Uncle Silas book at your bookstore, you don't anymore. I haven't seen one of these in the wild in 40 years. But if you ever do, and you're wondering what it is, it gets the Steve seal of approval, you're going to love it. So there you go. There are some more Hedgehog book recommendations for you in the middle of a long holiday weekend where there's nothing going on. Nothing free coming to the house, nothing at all. Where most places are closed. So a little bookish recommendation. That always picks me up. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.